Good afternoon, everyone. It's that time of year again, budget workshop.
We need to count Tony in. You're good? Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Yeah, so meeting's called to order. This is our first budget workshop. As you know, we do a couple of them leading up to July, which is our fiscal year, July to July. So that's it. Up first, it's kind of very informal process, our budget reviews. Up first is discussion and review. We got police department. So, yeah.
Overtime.
And like I said, this is a pretty laid-back process. It's just kind of time for departments to present their budgets and us to ask any questions that we may or may not have.
Exciting and it's a lot of fun.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, sir.
Real briefly, what I'm here to speak about is our overtime budget.
Okay.
At this point in time, with 2 months left in the year, we're approximately $3,000 to $4,000 over. I've listed on this document up here the main reasons why we are over on overtime, even though we made every effort to reduce it. I mean, I've even been out there working this year, which I can hardly see at nighttime, but I'm still out there doing it. But we got a couple of things. First of all, we got court, obviously. One of our biggest problems is the preliminary hearings that are held on Fridays. Sometimes those can go 8-10 hours, when they have a backlog, and our guys have to sit down there the whole time, depending on what order they are called in that day. And that's usually on their day off. Some of the other things we have are the special events. Now, if it's a town-spun special event, it usually comes out of our overtime budget. But if we get reimbursed for a substantial amount of that money throughout the year. And recently, we've been able to include with the special events are our law enforcement events that we're required to do, like certain checkpoints on holidays and stuff. Some of those are funded now through our law enforcement grant for our traffic officer, which has been very helpful. Training, there's been a huge increase in mandatory training, and well, it's just an example is in the next 4 weeks, we're going to lose a man each week for the entire week, so they can be recertified in their prospective training field. The academy requires that, and while they're gone, obviously we have to put somebody in their place to fill in, because there's a breakdown here of the personnel that are on the road. We essentially have two-man squads. We've got 3 people in FTO, which is a field training program. They're just about done with that. They're on their week 5. Once they're off of that, they're kind of signed off and ready to roll. We got 2 students that are currently enrolled in the police academy, which are really can't help out at this point until they graduate. And we have 2 vacancies in that spot. We also have a vacancy in our detective division, which is down to 2 officers. So if one of them take a vacation, the other one can't go anywhere, and they're on 24-hour call. So to sum it up, we want to ask, currently our budget is $34,000. We want to ask for about a $10,000 or $11,000 increase to $45,000. We think that'll put us in a position where, even with a slight increase, we should, be able to break even at the end of the year instead of, dipping into other funds somewhere else to cover this stuff. Like I said, we've done our best to try to curtail it, but just the demands are exceeding our personnel level and, the budget, obviously. But if we could just ask for that and consider that, I think we could do pretty good next year. Any questions from anybody?
No, I think if we need it, we need it.
It really
Try to
is
do what we
mostly
can.
unavoidable. I mean,
Yeah,
this
it
isn't
is.
just guys lingering around or anything like that.
Well, it's COVID, it's.
And what I forgot to cover, we got a lot of sick personnel. We've had a couple people that had major surgeries. One officer had a stroke, and they were out several weeks, and we had to,
in.
supplement their time in the schedule also.
Yeah,
so
we don't want to stress
It's been a
them
tough
out.
year.
You said that most events, of course, you're reimbursed via those contracts and so forth. For the town-sponsored events, are you reimbursed for those over time?
No, I mean, if the town sponsors the event, it's usually just comes out of the town's budget. And that, likely
So it
spot is
does
to
not
take it out of
impact-
our,
it doesn't impact
comes out
your
of our
overtime?
overtime budget first. I mean, it kind of gets, reimbursed
wash.
along the way
Okay.
and stuff, but,
I kind of agree with them. If it's what we need to get the job done, then I think we need to spend the money. I think we need to look at other ways. Maybe we can kind of cut back on some things. But, I was so proud recently when I looked in the paper on social media and saw the heroics of our police
Oh.
officer jumping in right down here to save somebody. I hear good things about Port Royal Police. I hear we have speeders, but I see y'all working. I see you pulling them over and all that stuff. I'm fine with it, whatever we gotta do. I know we gotta balance the budget, and we'll look to Van for that.
if I could, just for a minute, we did put in, talking about the speeders, we did put in for a specialized grant. What it's going to do is help us I guess, we can designate certain officers for certain times a day to be traffic-only officers, and the state will reimburse those funds for us. We applied for 2 positions that would cover that, and hopefully around October, we should hear something back. And that'll be good, because we can take them, if we have the manpower, obviously, and devote them strictly for traffic during their normal shift hours. And the state will reimburse us for those 4 to 5 hours that we put them on for that day.
Great, grants, anything you do like that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. The grants have been, I think, showed to be very beneficial for the department.
Oh, yeah, we've got
And,
2
we
full-time
thank
grant
y'all for-
officers now, and a part-time one with our victim advocate, and we putting in for 2 more SROs,
30%,
hopefully.
is
Those
that
will be
about
100% grants.
Wow, that's
and-
great.
We'll take it from that.
Well, thank you for what y'all do to try to make that happen.
Yes, sir. The public safety's #1 issue, so, anything we can do, absolutely, so,
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. All right.
Van, did you have any comments on that? You good?
We're getting comments from y'all.
Okay. That's cool.
All right, up next, fire department, or,
We got the rest of
they
it.
they split it up, okay. Well, tag team, okay. I got you.
Yeah, I got the clock running.
Tag
Good
team.
afternoon, good
Okay,
evening.
there you go.
I'm here to talk about fleet management. Basically, with our fleet management, we have 32 vehicles. We've been working on an $18,000 maintenance budget for the past 4 years, since around 2017. That's about $563 per vehicle per year. Just brakes alone cost about $500 in maintenance. We got a lot of new vehicles recently, and still we have some older vehicles we still have to do maintenance on. Tires, we are looking at about $235 per vehicle per year for tires. That may fix a flat, but it's not gonna replace the tires. So we're asking that we increase that a little bit. Try to get up there. We got 32 vehicles, hopefully somewhere around $1,000 a year for maintenance on each vehicle. We may use it, we may not use it, but it's better have and not need than need and not have. We went over budget this year, roughly around $14,000. That was not all maintenance. That was basically, we had to outfit 2 vehicles that we purchased through the town. That's the equipment that goes in our pickup trucks, lights, siren, things like that. That came out to be about $10,274. I put it in the maintenance budget because I had nowhere else to really take it from. So we had to take it from the maintenance budget. We had a couple of accidents and stuff over the year that actually went into the budget. We had some increase in some of the repairs because the county, once again, they took from us. They said they was no longer gonna have First Vehicle doing our maintenance, so we had to transition over to Firestone through Enterprise, which once Firestone got the vehicles, they started doing a thorough check on them, and we had to replace a lot of brakes, we had to replace rotors and things like that. So that kind of hit us hard in the budget. Accident, I can tell you for one, we had an accident that I felt that wasn't worth turning over to the insurance company and increasing our premium So we paid the $1,300 to get that vehicle fixed. It was our fault. So rather than increase the insurance, we just paid the $1,300 and fixed the vehicle to save the premium. So that kind of puts us around 11,000 and some change on the vehicle maintenance. I just put it there, didn't have anywhere else to take it. Another thing that's gonna hit us big in our vehicles is equipment. The county will no longer support the municipalities. Back in the day, they would give us radios, handheld radios, and MDC, which is the computer in the car. They're no longer doing that, which now is gonna equate to us about $15,000 per unit to replace them if they go bad. The MDC, which is the computer in the car, we looking at $4,000 per computer. In 2025, the Microsoft 10 is gonna become obsolete. We're not gonna be able to use it anymore. Therefore, all our MDCs will go down. We can't use them, we have to replace them. County will not purchase anymore for us. So we have to replace 25 MDCs at about $100,000. That's $4,000 per computer that goes in the car. We're gonna need additional 5 because we have grown and stuff. We have grown in personnel, we have grown in vehicles. The radios, the XTL 5000 are now obsolete. We talked about this probably 2-3 years ago. We brought it before council about the radios, and they say, hey, you know, we need to look at replacing them possibly 5 per year. Well, what happened is the council said, yes, it sounds great, we can make this happen. We couldn't get the radios. It took us years, about 3 to 4 years, to get 5 radios from Motorola. Chips, whole bunch of other stuff. COVID came through, we couldn't get them. We're finally starting to get that stuff in. So we're gonna have to replace 25 radios as they go down. We've got cars now, we really need to start replacing them while we can, because if we can't get them when they go down, we're gonna be stuck with cars without radios. And that's gonna put a hardship on the officers out there. We're gonna need an additional 5. I'm always say additional 5 because we're slated to have 30 officers once we get to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, once we get the staff, we'll have 30 officers. We're gonna need those extra, that extra equipment. The handheld radios. Now, I haven't heard anything as of yet that the handheld radios are going obsolete. They are still good, but they may meet the same fate as the not 65, but the 5000s. We don't know that yet, but we're preparing for it. So it's something that we need to look at as far as 32 new ones. That's gonna be at 167,000. Now, do we have to buy those right now? No, they're not obsolete yet. We still can use them, but if one breaks or goes down, we have to replace it. The county will not do that for us. That's batteries, anything. We're on our own now. The county has basically said, no, we're not doing it. The new vehicles, as we purchase our new vehicles, we're purchasing through Enterprise. Now with Enterprise, we're getting them fully outfitted and stuff. That's with everything, the computers, the lights, siren, the whole 9 yards. That's running us roughly around $82,000, $82,165 to fully equip a vehicle, to put it on the road ready. And I put it breakdown on here of what you're looking at. You're looking at about $50,000 a vehicle. If you go to the next slide. Oh, it was just scroll down.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So scroll
when
down
you put the lights, the cage, and the console in, you're looking at an additional $12,000. A radio siren, that's $6,500. The WatchGuard camera system, that's $7,250. Stalker radar, or basically any radar we put in, you're looking at roughly around $2,000. The laptop's $4,000. Then you got the Pocket Jet printer, which is what they use to print the tickets out. That's $350, and a fire extinguishers. They're not even cheap anymore. That's $65. That's what it's taken to fully equip a vehicle and put it on. What we're asking is that we start replacing those in-car radios as soon as possible. We got 4 Explorers that we purchased through Enterprise that came fully equipped. So we got 4 radios that's already updated. We still have a ways to go to get the rest of them in the vehicle updated. Approximately 2 years ago, we purchased 4 Ford Explorers. We just got those in just last year from Enterprise. It's taken about a year to 2 years to get a car fully equipped and set on the road. That's what happened to us. Now, there was some other stuff that happened there. If it wasn't for part of the upfitting and the problems we were going through with the people doing it, then we probably had that car within a year. But you're looking at least a year to get a car fully outfitted, striped, and equipped to go on the road after we purchase it. Now, we don't make a payment on those cars until we get the key in our hand. So once Enterprise gets that car, they have to give it to us ready for the road. So that's something we can look at as far as purchasing now and then paying for it once we get it. You're looking at 6 months till you'll be already going into your next fiscal year. This year, we got 4 2018s that paid off, and I think Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, they paid off this month, or they'll pay off this month, the 418 Ford Explorers. Yeah, they'll pay off, the last payment goes in this month. So that's $2,230.84 that we got to go toward the next purchase of vehicles. We've got, between March and June of this fiscal year, 2024-25, we have 7 more vehicles which will pay off, which is $10,923.02 per month on vehicles that we will have to go back and purchase more vehicles as we need it, in which that time we're coming around to need. The 4 Chevy Tahoes at $27.87 per month, those pay off in 2025 before the end of June. The Nissan Rogues, they'll pay off. We got 2 of those, that's additional $693. They'll pay off before the end of June 25. And the one F-150 that we bought with the Nissan Rogues at $445 per month will also pay off before the end of June. So we're looking at roughly getting almost $13,000 back into our budget for the purchase of new vehicles. But what we want to do is we want to act on them as soon as possible because it takes so long to get them and get them out on the road. And I think once we do that, we'll see that maintenance budget start to come down a little bit more. I think the program we on right now is a very good program because it keeps them up to par the way they should have been done a long time ago. Now, the county has pretty much told us you're on your own, so this is all coming from us. And that's what we're asking the council for this year.
Question. County and the city, are they using the same computers and radios and handhelds?
Yes, we are mandated, basically, I'm saying, the county mandates pretty much what we can use. We can go get a cheaper radio system and put in there, but by the time we upgrade it and put everything to it, we've just purchased what we got now.
So if that's the case,
They mandate.
we need to be leveraging the borrowing or the purchasing capacity of those agencies and driving down the unit costs.
Yes.
If they will not participate financially, at minimum, they should be allowing us to purchase through their contract.
Right.
Because there's got to be a discount for how many units, how many computers did they purchase at one time?
Just recently, the county purchased 85 for their department alone.
On a state
And I
contract.
think Captain Griffiths can back me on this. With the discount they got, we're pretty much getting the same discount when we purchase our computers. We're getting the same discounts because we're buying 25 plus. So once you get over 25 computers, you're gonna actually get a discount at that point. But we've been using the same people they're purchasing from as well.
State contract.
But they're purchasing, I mean, how many deputies out on the road?
And now the radios, that's gonna be a big part of it too. If we can get into a contract with them to buy radios through the same person, now that's where we may see our biggest benefit from it. Because I don't know what the discount is gonna come with that, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be should be a substantially good discount. But that's gonna be if they allow us to do that. Right now, they're pretty much saying they're on their own, we're on our own.
But let me ask you this, Van, and you maybe, and I know I brought this up before and y'all kind of, everybody chuckled a little bit, but we all pay county taxes just like everybody else does. And if you're gonna provide it for part of the county, so do we need to quit paying county taxes? Because this is a service they
County
provide.
council.
Now, if we're gonna do it, they need to compensate us in some way. And do we need the sheriff's office? I know he's on his own and he kinda does what he wants, but do we need to try to set up a meeting? Do we need to do something? Because at one point, we used to get, grants for radios, we used to get grants for vests, we used to get grants for radars.
We still get all those things. If the county used to purchase these things, they are no longer doing it.
Well, we gotta figure out a way that the county needs to step it up and pay us, because we are county taxpayers as well as the people outside of a municipality.
And I did
And we
talk-
need to have ours paid for too.
And I did go up and talk to the county and ask them about it, and I was basically told, tough, you're on your own. We're
Well,
not, we're
tough
not in
when we don't
the,
wanna
we're not
pay
in the
our
charity
taxes.
business anymore, and that came from the guy that handles their purchasing and stuff. I'm like, okay, you know,
He called it a charity?
he said they're no longer into the charity business.
Well, this ain't charity, but we pay county taxes to pay their
I
salaries.
understand, I made that a
Man,
point to
can we
make sure
find
they
out
know
who we
that.
need to have a meeting with?
Sierra P.J. Tanner.
That's fine.
Is this
I got
a
him on
legislative
speed
issue?
dial.
Maybe
He'll
Any
hear
further
from me
questions?
tonight.
Good.
we meet with our legislators.
No.
Not saying that y'all don't need them, but the county needs to offset in some way. That just makes me so mad. We pay taxes like everybody else. Nothing against you, Captain. Ain't nothing against our department. We do a great job, but we shouldn't be fitting the bill
I
when the
agree.
rest of the county is provided this service.
No.
If some kind of something.
And
They're
that's,
not purchasing for Bluffton, Beaufort.
no, that's the city,
We're all
all
municipalities are
municipalities
based in the same
no longer being
Well,
taken care
then,
of.
all the municipalities need to get together and say, hey, we all pay county taxes. If we don't pay taxes, you don't have salaries.
That's how it is. We need to all get together.
That's right.
Municipalities together.
I'm 100%. Let's get it started.
The radio thing is that their 911 call center
Right.
that's what they operate off of, right?
That's
kind
correct.
of the upgrade, and
That's
that's
correct.
where it left us here.
Right, yeah, everything that we got that goes, our radios and everything, it goes through their dispatch. That's the only way we communicate. When we was purchasing, stuff a while back, I checked into cheaper radios to see if it would work. And I was told, you can buy them, but then you got to buy this patch, you gotta buy this patch, you gotta buy this patch. By the time you're done, you're
You already paid
purchasing the
for radio.
the radio.
Yeah.
Have it crystallized.
So we're kinda at the mercy of, the county and Motorola at what we purchase.
Well, no,
because
you said
that's
it's
what-
just, it's frustrating because they dictate what you
What we
need.
need.
They tell you, you gotta use this equipment
But don't fund
because
it.
it works with our system, but we're not gonna help you financially
But they
pay
got
for
their
any other
toys.
things.
All the money that we pay to the county, they use to buy their toys.
About how
We can't
long,
even get what we need
how long were they purchasing
forever.
these things?
They was purchasing for a while.
Over 10 years, okay, or decades, I guess. So it wasn't like they got a grant and we're gonna do this for 1 year thing, okay?
No.
Okay.
This has been for
I
years.
wonder what prompted the.
Okay.
Any further questions?
No, sir. Thank you very
No,
much.
sir.
Very thorough. Thank you.
Thank you. See here, I got his speed dial, we don't call it.
Good evening. I'm just here to talk about some administrative projects that the police department's got going on. Some of the things that we're gonna have to upgrade is, we don't really have a choice in the matter. As Captain Massey said, with Windows 10 into life being in October of 2025, we're trying to prepare for that. We currently have, as far as our server is concerned, we're gonna have to upgrade that because we're adding more personnel. We upgraded our server in 2020, which it's fine. It's got several years of life left in it. However, the software in it is not gonna be able to manage the manpower that we currently, well, it can manage it now, but it's not gonna be able to manage it once we add additional staff. So with that, we're gonna have to upgrade the software on our server, which is about $420. Along with that comes client access licensing for Microsoft for each user that uses the system. Those licenses are going to be approximately $1,268 annually. That's something that we're going to have to budget for and continue to budget for in the future. We have some minor software needs of about $1,000 for Adobe Acrobat. That's just for our administrative staff to be able to redact, create our policies and procedures and redact things for FOIAs and the like. As far as the hardware goes, again, we're going to have to upgrade our workstations as well, not only just our laptops, but our workstations as well. We have 16 workstations at our police department. We're looking at if we replace all 16 of those at once, it's going to be approximately $10,400. That's an estimate. If we replace them on a quarterly basis, that's about $2,600 a quarter. We prefer to do them all at one time, though. And I know you're probably asking if this is all happening in October 2025, why are we doing it in this budget year? The reason being is that we get audited by SLED and the FBI every 3 years for our CGIS audit. And we want to get all these new hardware implemented before we get into that, because 2025 is going to be our audit year. And we want to try to get all this hardware in place before we get audited. Now, we'll add a caveat to that. There's an alternative to replacing the hardware, and that would be for if we buy extended maintenance agreements with Microsoft. But if you look at the cost, the 3-year cost of the extended maintenance agreements, we're at $6,800, and we'd be better off just purchasing the hardware up front. But that is an option that we, a cheaper option that we could go with. And as well as, I'll add a caveat to all this. Me and Brooke and Captain Massey had a meeting with VC3, which is the town's IT management. We currently manage our own IT within the police department. And if we were to go with VC3 to have them manage our IT, we could probably, all of this would probably be wrapped up into that contract as well. So, but that's something that VC3 hasn't reached out to me yet to confirm that they would to do that, or if it's something that we could physically, do. As far as licensing fees, along with those in-car cameras, we have currently have 18 in-car cameras, and the licensing fee on that is $195 a year for each device, as well as our body-worn cameras. Those are also $195 a year for licensing fees. So for the in-car cameras, we're looking at $3,510 for licensing fees. For body-worn cameras, we're looking at $4,680 for licensing fees. And I'll also add a caveat to that. Currently all of our in-cars and body-worn cameras we've obtained through grants. So it's been no money out of the town's pocket for those, which equates to about $165,000. So over the last 3 years, when we implemented our new body cams and in-car cameras, all of that hardware has been provided to us through state grants. So small price to pay really for the licensing fees. And that's not to say that I just recently submitted a grant for some more body cams, for 6 more body cams this year. And they also pay for the first year of maintenance with those if they grant those to us. We've always received the grant, not guaranteed that we will get it, but they do pay the first year of licensing fees. Once we're up to full staff on the or full par on the in-cars and the body cams, we can always request for reimbursement for those licensing fees, and which we will do. We do, yearly. But this is worst case scenario if we don't get the grant. We recently, I'm sure you guys are aware, we have an online reporting system to where citizens can go online to our website, report a crime online. We use LexisNexis, desk officers reporting system. We obtained that system under a grant, a COVID grant back in 2021, late 2021, and we're granted $13,500 for that. We implemented the program. It's been working out great. As far as continuing maintenance, though, we have to pick up the licensing fees. We have to pick up the continuing license fees. That's roughly $5,100 a year. Now, that seems like a big price tag, but if you look at the numbers that I've provided, I'll just give you, for fiscal year 2022-2023, we took 155 online reports, which figuring that up at $55 an hour at each officer handling those calls themselves at an hour and a half, we've saved $8,500. So it's paid us back plus some. Not only that, but in conjunction with the LexisNexis online reporting, we also submit all of our crash data to them. And what happens with that is it's basically a clearinghouse. So attorneys, insurance companies can go on there without having to request it directly through us, which in years past, that's what they would do. They would send us a request, personnel would have to redact all that out, but now they're automatically uploaded into that system, and then the consumer can buy it online. Last year, or fiscal year 2021, 2020, or 22-23, we uploaded 368 reports, and out of that, we gleaned $636 from the sale of those reports. So we are getting returns back from that. The next item is the NetMotion VPN license. Those are the virtual private network that the officers use to access the county's CAD system. The county just in the last 2 years has started charging us for the cost of each license for that. The cost for each license is $10 a month per computer, so you're looking at $2,500 a year for that. So that's a VPN license that would, I mean, we don't have any choice in that matter. We have to be able to access our CAD. And then our records management system software, the annual fee on that is $3,700. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we share that with the court because the court uses that as well. So we split that 50-50. And that's really all that I have. Did anyone have any questions?
No, sir, not from me. Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
I know. This still makes it tough.
Yes.
Okay.
That makes it tough.
So, yeah, is that it from the police department? Anyone else? Okay, all right. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. To kind of echo what Councilman Ashmore said, yeah, I hear great things in the community all the time from all your deputies and officers, and so thank you all so much. So, up next is the fire department review.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chief.
I'll try to do mine in 1 minute.
Good.
What you see in front of you is the presentation I gave last night to City Council. So to give you kind of a global view of the fire department with both the city and Port Royal, our total budget $6.7 million this year. There is an increase in salary and benefits for a couple of different reasons. One, we're doing some COLAs and the city's absorbing some insurance costs. That's going to happen this year to the employees. But also, we had a lot of turnover a couple of years ago. So you're seeing those firefighters now progress through the promotions. They're receiving firefighter 1, firefighter 2, firefighter 3 ranks. So their salaries are increasing now because they gaining more certification, more knowledge, more experience. So that comes at a cost to us. So our total salary and benefits package is increasing this year. If you scroll down, to the graph there's a breakdown of what we spent. The FY23 actual in personnel was a little over $3 million. That's because we were short a lot in 2023, so that number looks lower than what it really would have been if we were fully staffed. And you see FY25 recommended budget there is 4.1 million. So it looks like a lot, but it's a lot because of those variations and factors in there. Why from 23 to 25 has changed so much. And if you'll scroll down to the last slide, it gives the breakdown and the split between the city of Beaufort. So we have 55 full-time employees, 10 part-time employees. So that's the bulk of our budget is salaries and benefits. So the $6.7 million budget split between the city of Beaufort for 3.9 for the city and 2.8 for the town.
And that split's based upon rooftops. It's in both the city and the town, and it's broken out across the entire budget for the fire department.
Yeah, we get those numbers every year from the county and the number of rooftops in the city of Beaufort versus the town of Port Royal, and we tie a percentage of that, and that's how that is broken up. Right now, it's 61% city of Beaufort, 39% Port Royal.
And how are, just so I know, how are rooftops calculated?
The tax assessor's office of the county, they count.
I'm
a
just saying,
rooftop
how
as
is like
rooftop.
a Walmart building, is that one rooftop
It's one
and
rooftop.
a little 900 square foot houses of one rooftop? Okay.
Yeah. That's why I think that split is more fair than the population split, for example.
Oh,
The population,
absolutely.
I think Port Royal may even be greater than Beaufort.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
But
this is
the,
good.
the revenue, the income is not the same for the
Yeah,
tax
gosh.
base.
No, like I said, I was just wondering how it was calculated, like if the term rooftop was
Yeah.
what that meant, so.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
And then factored in all that, obviously. Well, not anymore. I was gonna say something about the relationship with fire districts, but we handle
Oh,
it
yeah.
all ourselves now, so.
Yeah, that's pretty much split across, but
Right.
yeah.
There we go.
Good. Any questions for Chief?
No,
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
That was pretty close to a minute. Yeah.
You did good.
think we took a little.
That's close, yeah. Okay. What we got?
Megan.
Public safety gone. Up next, the Military Enhancement Committee, presented by Ms. Megan Morris, the interim director of the Chamber of Commerce.
Call me what you wish. Today I'm actually here. Thank you, Council, for having us. I'm wearing my MEC hat, and MEC is the Military Enhancement Committee, which I know you all know very well. I do have a brief presentation, but I'll move quickly. Please let me know if you have any questions along the way. The MEC has over a 20-year history in Beaufort now. It just surpassed that major milestone. It is recently rebranded, and the committee is re-engaged in some new projects that will have a lasting impact on the people of our region. On the screen now, you see what the mission of the MEC is. It's in two parts. While our logo might look a little different, and we're re-engaging in other ways, the mission stays the same. That is consistent. This is exactly what the MEC was commissioned to do, chartered to do. It has its own independent charter, and this is what it continues to do. BRACs today are not common, but there are several other federal decisions that affect our bases. Of the three, as you well know, two are right here in Port Royal. Beaufort and Port Royal, the three bases we have here, Marine Corps Air Station, Marine Recruit Depot, Parris Island, and the Naval Hospital, make us, as a region, the fourth largest military presence in the state of South Carolina. The structure of the MEC is a public-private partnership. There are 11 voting members, of which you all have an appointee that you, as a council, approve. That is Jimmy Boozer, who enjoys serving and serves well, and we're grateful to have him on the MEC. Funding requests this year are level from the last 2 years. The MEC is requesting $15,000 for the whole next year for funding and resources to carry out their mission. A little more about that. These are the reasons the MEC exists. Obviously, the military is our national defense. We're very lucky we have them close by, but we all know the importance of what they do, both in recruiting and training over 20,000 Marines a year at Parris Island, and a really important new program that we have at the air station, which is the F-35 program. The history of our bases here is deep and broad, and we are the cradle of the Corps. The economic impact is also worth noting. This figure is actually 2 years old. We think it has increased, and we're trying to find out what number is the new number. But at a minimum, there is a $2.5 billion impact on our region by having our bases here. There's over 10,000 service members who call Beaufort home while they're serving here, and there are 19,000 other jobs created by virtue of those bases being here. So what are some general functions that we do to carry out the mission of the MEC? Each member of the MEC works hard to have dialogue with local leaders. We often see many of you there at opportunities to converse with local base commanders and show the community support that they need. They tell us that it is imperative to them to have a close connection to the community. I know you all work in that capacity with them. The MEC is also essential to that. So we attend many military ceremonies and really support our service members in all they do. We also do fun stuff like track and analyze policy. NDAA comes out once a year. We analyze that. We look at what could apply to us. We talk to local, state, and federal legislators about things within that NDAA that can impact our bases. So some policy and advocacy work is definitely part of what the MEC does. And the coordination between installations, governments, partners, that also we believe is critical to being able to carry out our mission. The MEC meets 6 times a year. You all are always welcome to attend those. Just let me know if you would like to. You can sit right next to Jimmy. We conduct these functions that I just talked about regularly at those meetings, and the activities that we're kind of adding on to those general functions for the upcoming fiscal year is a continuation of those, but also identifying some new investments for infrastructure and resiliency at our bases. I'm sure you know well that the last couple of years have seen some great investments that we've helped facilitate from the state level and the federal level to do things like the resiliency projects at Parris Island, their recent oyster reef erosion project, as well as the one that's ongoing right now at Laurel Bay to put the pathway between Laurel Bay and the air station. So those are a couple of examples of how $9.2 million out of the $12 million that was allocated for all of the state spaces came down to Beaufort. So we're really proud of that. We applaud you and your work to endorse the IGSA program and get that started and support our bases in that way. And we think that is going to be a nice vehicle for us to use as a community moving forward and for the bases to do moving forward. We are very excited about the construction of a VA clinic, and we'll be supporting that effort as it goes underway. And then maybe one of the most exciting things that we're doing, especially if I'm sitting in your chair, is that we're moving forward phase 2 of our Defense Community Partnership Task Force, and that is focused on what the future of the Naval Hospital site will be when federal decisions are made and money is appropriated to update the medical care offered here to our service members. So a lot of the things that we are focusing on today or this year and adding to our general functions of the MEC are dependent on federal actions and are imperative to have commanders dialoguing with us and working in step with them. So all the expenses for these upcoming projects that we're starting are not yet determined, but our Defense Community Partnership, I would like to talk a little bit more about that, works within our MEC. So the Naval Hospital future is in focus. We know that there's been orders, but no appropriation yet for a super clinic or for other medical facilities to be built for our bases. The Naval Hospital itself, we just celebrated its 75th anniversary here. Mayor Phillips, it was a pleasure to sit with you for that ceremony. We know that Naval Hospital has an important history here, and it's been an integral part of Port Royal. It's actually the oldest operating medical facility in the entire Department of Defense. So it is wonderful that we can celebrate its history. It's wonderful it's still supporting our service members, but there's no doubt that forward thinking there will be different medical needs to support the air station and the and Parris Island. We believe that the two bases can be stronger than the three are now. We don't anticipate this being a setback for our community. In fact, it is a great opportunity. And we've spoken with you all about this several times. We have a separate task force within the MEC. They work together, but it focuses totally on this project. There are representatives, again, everything we do is collaborative in nature. There are representatives from each of the municipalities. Town of Port Royal's representative is Greg Shelton. These are the goals of that task force: to develop an executable plan fully supported by local government. The next catch is getting that supported by DHA and DOD and the Navy. So we are making great contacts and we are moving forward. We have renderings, early renderings like you see there. We have a long list of things that we have learned about how the federal government can handle these types of properties, and in one word, it's complex. But we are making contacts and learning a lot every day. What our goal is to have, when the time is right, when the federal government and the military is ready, have the Naval Hospital categorized as underutilized. That's a term that opens up an array of options that we think will serve this community well. And then we would like, if that were to happen, for the Navy or DHA to consider an enhanced use lease. So I don't know the details of these things, but I can tell you that after lots of research, lots of investment of time, money, and energy, and consulting expertise in this matter, that is our goal moving forward. We do hope, and we are reassured, if you'll just go back one, Brooke, that our anticipation of this change and our collaborative pre-planning will reduce downtime once the site changes hands or is no longer used. Excuse me. What you see in front of you is an example not far from here where 30 years later the community was still waiting for change. Here's a quick excuse me, quick shot of workforce. Here's a shot of local workforce data, because we want to work with separating service members to help re-engage them in the community as well. So I wanted to point that out, and thank you for being part of our Military Appreciation Day. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. No, thank you. And like you said, that you're keeping an eye on that Naval Hospital, and that's the most, yeah, exactly. So, thank you so much. Up next, Friends of Cypress Wetlands, Mr. Scott Clark. Fresh from his birthday.
Hello, everybody.
Birthday party.
Yeah.
Thank you for allowing me to come and present a couple of budgets for the Cypress Wetlands. I do realize that both of these budgets are, I think, part of the stormwater management or the stormwater fund. But I did want to make you guys aware of it, so I'll be brief on that. The first budget is concerning the split rail fence. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the split rail fence that we do have out there. So I'm giving the town two options. One is to do it in 2 phases, and the total cost for that is I think it's around, yeah, it's $23,500. If we did it in 1 phase, I propose that we do it in August, and that's $18,000, a little over $18,000. And of course, I'll get firm bids from Southern Palmetto on that before we do that. The next budget is the replacement of all the boardwalks. The boardwalk has got some age to it, and so I have created a phased plan because I don't know what kind of funds we can ask for at one time with the stormwater fund. So first thing I did was, Brooke, if you want to scroll down just a little bit more, I broke it down. I figured out the total amount that we can we need to ask for, and it comes at $207,000. I then broke it down into a 3-year budget over 5 phases, and that comes out to $223,000. And again, I'll work with the town on all of that over the next couple of weeks as you guys finish your budget. The last thing that I wanted to discuss with you today is the ongoing request from the HPRF to install steps at the end of the parking lot for the village shops. The position of the Friends of Port Royal Cypress Wetlands is that this is a very bad idea for several reasons, which I'll get to in a minute. I understand the reason why HPRF wants to install these steps, but they are not considering all of the negative issues that would be created if those steps are installed. First and foremost, there's a picture of an aerial of the Cypress Wetlands and the parking lot that I've outlined there. The entire parking lot slopes from Paris Island, or from Paris Avenue down to the wetlands. You can't fight gravity, so every time we get a heavy rain, water runoff runs down that parking lot, collects all the sediment and all the pollutants that come from that parking lot, go down the parking lot, onto the pathway, and eventually into the marsh. So the first problem that it creates is a maintenance issue. Every time we get a hard rain, you're looking at the person, and that lady right there, who have to go to the wetlands with a shovel and a broom and broom off the pathway because of all the sediment. But eventually that sediment and pollutants end up into the Cypress Wetlands, which creates an ecological concern for all of us. The second issue doesn't affect the Cypress Wetlands so much, but certainly affects the tenants, shop owners, and customers of the village shops. 2 years ago, I contacted Jim Melvin, the husband of Dawn Keith Melvin, who owns the property, and he told me unequivocally that he does not want any access point from the parking lot down to the pathway. The reason he doesn't want that is because it will exacerbate the already terrible parking situation that they have in that parking lot. You put an access point there, people who want to go to the wetlands are going to park in that parking lot, and it's going to affect all of the tenants in that shopping center. He told us not to. And because of that, because of the parking issue and because of the maintenance issue, I worked with Van about 2 years ago to install the first section of split rail fence that we put from the amphitheater around to the main boardwalk. We also we stabilized that slope by putting jute mat and riprap to prevent it from happening. That solution worked great for about 18 months until the HPRF put a sign at the wetlands directing people back up that same hill over to the Cypress or over to the HPRF museum, creating another dirt path. And so now, again, every time it rains, you guys know the drill. It's going to run down that dirt path, collect sediments and pollutants, and run onto the path and into the boardwalk. So again, I get it. I know why they want to do that, but the reason they want to draw people back up to the HPRF is precisely the reason what's causing this problem. So the Friends of Port Royal Cypress Wetlands do not support any access from the parking to the trail. But if the town decides to do this, I have a few recommendations that I would like for the town to consider. First, it is in the town's best interest to get a written agreement from the Keith Trust agreeing that the access point is allowed from the parking lot down to the path. And I believe that agreement needs to state in the recitals the obvious, which is it's going to affect the parking. Secondly, assuming you do get that agreement from them, which I doubt, but if you do, then the HPRF and or the property owners need to hire a civil engineer to design a water collection system that is placed at the bottom of at the lowest point of the parking lot, which will collect all the runoff, all the pollutants, and all the sediment, collect that sediment into a basin, and allow clean water to go into the wetlands. And third, assuming all that happens, the town needs to be prepared to pay for the installation of this collection system. They need to be prepared to pay for most likely the steps or whatever they want to put in. And most importantly, they need to pay for the ongoing maintenance from that point forever and ever, amen, to clean up that pathway because, let's face it, I'm not getting any younger. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to or willing to do all that work myself. And even if they decide to do nothing with the steps but leave the pathway that's there, that pathway is going to have to be engineered as well to collect the water up top to make sure that the pollutants and the siltation doesn't run down the path into the wetlands. Again, thank you for your time. Any questions?
You brought up some valid points there also, but when it rains right now with that slope, the sediments are going to go down there.
It didn't after Van and I put the jute mat and the riprap on there. If you look at the area where the riprap is now, which is at the end of the parking lot,
I've walked it also recently,
Yeah.
just to get an idea of what the proposal was.
Yeah.
So if you had a step versus a ramp, would that make a difference?
No.
Okay.
Because everything's going to drain towards those steps, and they're going to cascade down the steps to the path.
And then I guess I wouldn't say a remedy because people defy them all the time, but if they could put proper signage out there to restrict and prohibit wetland parking in that area.
It's still the problem is you can't fight gravity. That water's going to run
No, I'm
downhill.
talking about the parking, but that was the second point you talked
Yeah.
about. But if you had an access point there, then people are going to be encouraged to park in that parking
Yes.
lot. But again,
You can't. I mean, people are going to do what people are going to do. So
well, that's what I said. Also, you
Yeah.
can't guarantee that it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Signage would be a deterrent also. I was just asking, particularly primarily about the ramp versus a step type access. But
well,
you answered it.
there is a path right now that's on the top side, right behind Grill and
Where
Grits.
that grease catcher is or whatever, between the snack shack and the back of Griddles and,
Grill and Grits.
yeah, that's the path right now.
Yes,
that
they
they're-
started there,
Right.
and that path wasn't really there until they put the sign directing people back up, which is within the last 4 months is when the dirt, it became a dirt path, and now that dirt path is running down to the pathway again, and I'm taking a shovel and a broom up there and cleaning it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. We got one more. And make it quick. Historic Port Royal Foundation. Right on time. Pamela Courtney, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Mayor, Council, Van, staff, for allowing us to come up here tonight. I just will make one brief comment. We do disagree with the wetlands. We don't have time to, at this point, to
Yeah, we'll work
engage.
on that.
We'll
Just
work
stick
on
to
that.
budget stuff right
All
now.
right.
We'll work on that.
Just so some of you may not know, the HPRF board is fully functioning. I would like to just acknowledge very quickly Carol Poor, Pete Cotter, Jeffrey Gillian, Ben Leitzel, and the other members on the board that are not able to be here is Dr. James Simmons, Karen Denise Green, and Sherry Hargis. That they're all out of town, but I want to say, and I will say this: that with they are a board that is with great intention, have been reviewing and developing, a solid direction for HPRF, and we're very, very grateful for that. As you can see on the first slide here, our total number for the museum in this past year, and we do everybody logs in with zip codes so we know where they are, so we can track them, and it's 4165 with total of 46 states, 11 countries, and you can see our South Carolinas are numbers are at 2386. So we do track that very, very much. If we look over at the next page. We also are tracking now how we do. So 95% of our visitors are directed or have been to the wetlands, and that comes out to about 3,956. 90% are directed to Sands Beach, which is 3,748, and 75% of our visitors ask, where do locals go to eat? And that comes out to about 3,100. So you can see when somebody hits Paris Avenue, when they're interested in the food, like that, where they go. And I know by experience which restaurants are recommended in this area, and it's all staying within Port Royal. Next slide. Our membership is holding steady at 102 members, but as of this last year, we created a new lifetime membership honoring Daniel F. Appleton Society, and these levels go from 1,000 to 10,000, and at this point now we have memberships at 5,500. And as I said, this is a lifetime membership for our members. Next slide. There's a lot of, I'm very aware of our time now at what time it is for the next meeting. We've had a lot of accomplishments in this last year. Too many to go through, but one of the things is the Rebo Run is still on for June the 8th. We're very grateful for Dr. Larry Rowland, who has allowed us to use his name for Port Royal's benefit, and we've now put on 5 lecture series. The last one was this last Thursday. We also had the unveiling of the USS Port Royal this last Thursday, and in the first three days of the new exhibit going up, USS Port Royal, we've had 191 visitors through that building, which is a lot for that tiny building. Those of you that have attended and gone through it, we are so grateful. One of the other things that we have accomplished this last year is the Oral History Project, and that is available through YouTube. We expect to put on 2 more this year, but that can be seen at the museum as well on a loop. Next slide. So moving forward for our projects for this next year, a year ago we were in here and talking about the oyster shucking girls, and that has been moved off to the oyster shucking children of Port Royal. Some of you are very familiar with those images where Hein came down here and took photographs of the children here. The Donnelly Foundation, and that's very rare that they pursue people, usually have to go to them, but they have come down here from Chicago and Charleston and asked us to now begin a planning grant and apply for that of $25,000 to begin the prospects. And this will be something totally different that you will not see in museum, but it will highlight Port Royal and the oyster shucking children who worked right down about where we are right now. The next thing is the International Storytelling Festival, and that was designed to have a sustainable revenue for HPRF. The first one will be October 17th through the 19th, and we will have on that Thursday, it'll be held at Port Royal Elementary School, so we're going to keep it right here as part of it. We have one of the storytellers who was from this area. He is a descendant of the Smith family from the plantation, Smith family plantation, where the naval that has agreed to come in now and also be a storytelling representing the story from here as well as professional storytellers. We will have a school-wide a session for our teachers to begin the art of storytelling, and we anticipate that it is going to, have an incredible increase in revenue for the town of Port Royal. One of the next thing is the implementation of the interpretive sign at Stevens Millette Park. You will see that the tree has been trimmed up. There's mulch out there. The next thing is to have interpretive sign and a dedication. And the oral history expansion, as I mentioned, that's the next thing is scanning historical documents. We now, if you had been in the museum before, we had a whole lot of plastic bins full of documents, which has been kind of a nightmare in case we had fire or flood or storm. And they are now housed in 2 file cabinets, completely full now, ready to go on to the third one where documents are now in there alphabetically. The next thing will be that they'll be scanned so you can view those on the internet. So go on through and you can see photos of the new museum exhibits, And the next one is as well. We are becoming very aware of everybody that comes into the museum and making it accessible. As you can see, they're coming up the ramp to the back door. And then the person to the right was teaching us to sign, and that second part is she was teaching us to sign at Port Royal on that side. So, our funding needs for this next year. Because of increased tourism, we have committed to being open 5 days a week, which would be on a Monday. During the summer months, we want to try this out, providing our volunteers are available. We are the ambassadors of Port Royal.
Are you open on the weekends?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now we're talking about Monday.
Gotcha.
That we're watching and monitoring who is coming in, and there is a lot of overflow from graduations and visitors, particularly in the summer months, which fall over on Mondays, and they knock on the door and want to come visit. So that would be the most logical, commitment to make. But we are the ambassadors of Port Royal. The museum is a place where our tourists stop in to get directions and information on where to shop, eat, and explore. Our docents and staff help map out other points of interest, making their visit to Port Royal and surrounding area memorable. And there really is no other place in town where somebody can be directed on where to find Fort Frederick, where to shop. This is where they come to stop in. We haven't had an incredibly increased interest in history and conducting research from visitors and descendants, and we've had people come in from Pennsylvania saying, my grandfather was born here, my great-grandfather was coming here. They give us the name, they point to the photos, they say this was part of our family, and we're seeing is an increased amount of visitors asking those. In 2023, we requested $80,000, and the town granted us $60,000 with advisement to apply for a town Port Royal ATAX grant, and which we recently did. So we are requesting this year $90,000 funding for this from July until June in support of museum overhead, staffing, and programs. Next room. So there's always a reason, like that. The story of of this town is invaluable, a cornerstone and tapestry, and it's best told by the local museum, and that's where we have it. It's just an incredible asset. It's urgent that we must preserve our historical documents, protecting them from environmental damage, for residents and visitors to research important events in history. And we operate with a minimal staff, primarily volunteers, including fundraising opportunities. Significant town financial support is required for the museum to function. The museum and staff are priceless in their ability to direct tourist dollars to a myriad of businesses within Port Royal. And we would like to thank you for your consideration. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I've got just a couple real quick. And this is a serious question, but I've actually had a couple people ask me about the Port Royal beer they saw at the museum the other day.
Yes.
Is that available to the public? Is it still being bottled? Can you get it? If so, can you let me know where?
Well, maybe we need to be talking to Nick about
Maybe.
that. That bottle of beer is actually 30 years old. It was carried around, and we put it in a case so visitors could see that this was quite the treat at one time, and so it is not bottled here, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, it was great. Everybody's like, where do you get that? I want to get some of that.
I just said some of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, I just wanted to comment, just looking at my notes, past 2 or 3 weeks, if you think about it around here, from the Soft Shell Craft Festival to the unveiling of the events at the museum, to the Waterman's Boots, to the event at the Highway 21 Drive-In, to the event at Cypress Wetlands. There's a lot going on, a lot of good things going
Positive
on. So thanks
things.
to everybody
Yeah.
for everything that you do for our community.
One of the things that I want to say is in this past year particularly, we have developed really strong relationships with MCAS, Paris Island, and the Naval Hospital. And that has been, all 3 installations have provided us with volunteers at every one of our functions and events. And they've showed up on time. And even during the rainy day when we thought we were going to have the Rebo run, I had 6 Marines standing there in the rain ready to direct traffic. And they were not going to say no until the whistle blew on it. My last thing is that we kind of track other Facebook sites on what people say about us, and this came in this last week. Looking forward to visiting this museum one day. On my list to visit Port Royal, South Carolina. I would love to visit Port Royal one day, and we should do a reunion in Port Royal. So this is stuff that's all happened in this last weekend from other people's sites. Any other questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, that brings Budget Workshop 1 to an end. As I said, we'll have another one next month and then finalize our budget here for July. So thank you to everyone that presented today. We went a little over, but that's fine. I was late. And do anyone need to go on a break before the Budget Workshop? Or roll on, all right. Okay, so up next is a public hearing. Are we good to go, Mr. Anthony? Okay. So this is our May 1st, 2024 public hearing. Call this meeting to order. We got quite a few things on the agenda to go through. Again, this is a chance for public comment from the public on these issues. A lot of them were things that came before the Planning Commission. As you know, the Planning Commission didn't meet for 3 or 4 months, so when they did, they had quite a long list of things to go on, and so now those are here for public comment. So first one is public comment on ordinance 2023-5, an ordinance amending the zoning code to include section 3.3.70 Gateway to Port Royal overlay zone standards. Noah, can we just give a brief overview of what that is? Just a quick elevator pitch on what we're talking about.
Sure. So this is an overlay zone that the Redevelopment Commission has been talking about for several months now. The idea behind some of the standards in the overlay are to provide some lateral movement for staff and developers within the redevelopment district, which is the commercial properties fronting Rebo Road within our jurisdiction. from the Bell Bridge to Johnny Morrell Circle at Piggly Wiggly. So that could be, some administrative waivers on certain architectural standards that ease the costs of development and still create something aesthetically pleasing. We are allowing new development to submit a parking study rather than setting a minimum parking requirement, wherein they explain the use, explain their parking needs, and asphalt is a huge cost of development. So piecing together things like that, just to make sure that in our redevelopment district where we'd like to see that commercial growth, that we're doing everything we can to facilitate that.
Absolutely. I love that. That's a great idea, having that traffic study instead of the minimums in there. It's like we talked about, you look at the Piggly Wiggly parking lot, it's massive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen it more than half full, maybe. So, all right, so thank you. So any any comments from the public regarding the ordinance 2023-5? Okay, going once, going twice. So we're moving on to number B. B is ordinance 2024-3. This is an ordinance annexing to the town of Port Royal approximately 1.15 acres of real estate located in Beaufort County, described as Beaufort County Tax District 100, map 33B, parcel 90C, located at 505 Hamrick Drive. Is there anyone in the public that would like to be heard on ordinance 2024-3? Going once, going twice, sold. Hearing none, we'll move on. Ordinance 2024-4 is regarding the same piece of property. This is just about the zoning of it. An ordinance to zone approximately 1.15 acres of real estate located in Beaufort County, described as Beaufort County Tax Code 100, map 33B, parcel 90C in Beaufort County, South Carolina, to be zoned T3 suburban neighborhood. I can tell you all, this was essentially the zoning that was at when it was in the county. It just gets it into our zoning in the
Be interesting to know
town.
why they want to be zoned into Port Royal.
They want to be, they actually gave, it was a group, it's Dee Simpson and Joe, and
Okay.
they were really involved when that church was going in. Remember?
I remember.
Dr. Brace? And she said that she kept coming to the meetings and was involved, and she wanted to get more involved in Port Royal, and then realized that she doesn't live in Port Royal. So the way to get involved in Port Royal is to request to be annexed into Port Royal. So they're just annexing in their house. They're one lot. So, is there any public comment on ordinance 2024-4? Okay, going once, going twice, moving on. Number D, 2024-5, an ordinance to rezone approximately 0.17 acres of real estate described as Beaufort County Tax District 110, map 10, parcel 61, located in Beaufort County, South Carolina, to be rezoned from T3 suburban neighborhood to T4 neighborhood center. This is on 16th Street, 1213 16th Street. Essentially, this zoning, it would match the zoning, if you look at the lot right below it on 15th Street. Is there any public comment on ordinance 2024-5? Hearing none, we are moving on. Okay. Get another one. Okay, 2024-6, an ordinance to add approximately 0.21 acres of real estate described as Beaufort County Tax District 110, map 7, parcel 694, located in Beaufort County, South Carolina, to be manufactured homes on individual lots overlay zone. Is there any public comment on 2024-6? Hearing none, moving along. This 2024-7, an ordinance to amend Chapter 13, mobile homes and mobile home parks, apartments, and other rental dwellings in the Code of Ordinance of the Town of Port Royal, South Carolina. Anyone that wishes to be heard on ordinance 2024-7? Hearing none. Moving on. 2024-8, an ordinance of the Town of Port Royal, South Carolina, imposing a moratorium on the issuance of a license and the use of property within the town for the purpose of short-term rentals. We spoke about this last month. The town, we talked about standing up a citizen group to meet for the next couple months. If you look, we're actually taking some interviews at our agenda, right? We've got some appointments at our next meeting, at next week's meeting for that board. stand them up, let them get together, start to meet for a few months, and try to come back with the council to some sort of ordinance regarding short-term rentals within the town. Is there anyone that would like to be heard on ordinance 2024-8? All right, hearing none, we are moving on. 2024-9, an ordinance of the town of Port Royal, South Carolina, imposing a moratorium on the issuance of certificates of compliance, building permits, design review approvals, site development plan approvals, subdivision approvals, or other similar land use or construction approvals for any multifamily development. I know we have a presentation coming up later. We've got you we got you at the next, Claude. So yeah, again, this is something the town has talked about. It's been talked about for a while, looking at the growth that we're seeing in this area, trying to make sure that we're doing that in a responsible way that does not overextenuate and put too much pressure on our infrastructure, on our services. You just heard from our fire department, from our police department, and then services, and we're starting to get to that, a serious point with the population that we're seeing in the town. This is a way this moratorium would extend for 1 year. It'd be 12 months. I was reading in it, and is there anything in it, that differentiates between, like, when this says multifamily, would it be, is that a duplex?
So any individual structure with more than 3 units.
More than 3?
So a single-family duplex or triplex could still be built on an individual lot.
Okay, all right, good. Because there's some of those things that I think are really important. We talk about affordable housing and all that, just those 2-3 unit, properties that we're talking about. This is more focused at those mega 400 unit, 600 unit, 300 unit properties that we're seeing pop up. Is there anyone that would like to be heard publicly on 2024-9? Yep. I'll just go in order. Miss Rebecca Bass, come on up, please. And just so everybody knows, for public comment, we do have 3 minutes, so.
I don't need 3 minutes.
Okay, all right.
I talk fast.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
My question is, how did we come up with up to 3 units? Because HUD says that a single family, can be up to 4 units. South Carolina says that if you have a builder's license, residential building license, you can go up to 6 units. So I think it would be rational to think that maybe up to 4 units would be a reasonable number. And what I'm thinking of is townhomes, for example, that would have 4 units per building. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 space, 1, 2, 3, 4 space. And if you wanted to have a limit on how many there could be, how many buildings, that's not addressed. So I don't know, if you're up to 30 units, let's say, of 4 units apiece, 4 townhomes apiece, would that be outside the moratorium, or would it be prohibited during the moratorium?
Say that again.
Okay. What I'm envisioning is townhomes that would have up to 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a building. Then you'd have a space, of course, right? You'd have another building, 4 units, 4 units, 4 units. But how many of those 4-unit townhome buildings could you have and still not be running awry of the moratorium? So up to 30, for example,
I don't know.
So, and we've discussed this. The way that our zoning code is worded is that a townhouse, because a townhouse structure can have 3 to 8 units in it, it's categorized as a multifamily dwelling.
Okay.
Although there is that instance where, a triplex is considered a single-family dwelling, so that is a little bit of a gray area. I guess that townhouses in that sense on a small scale could be kind of lumped in on the wrong side of this. They're not, obviously, depending on what the development is. I guess the only solution to that would really be capping the unit number. I don't have a clear-cut solution to that.
I get you.
I mean, HUD says you can have a single-family mortgage if you're in a townhouse, let's say, of up to 4 units. And I explained to you the difference in terms of building licenses within South Carolina. So you understand why I'm asking for some clarification.
Yes, and what would, if the purpose of this is to limit just massive, large developments,
Yes.
you said, so we have the multifamily, so this moratorium is for, it says 3 units is, anything more than 3 units on a single
I don't know
lot.
that it says that, but that's the way that
That's
would
what
need to be
it would
interpreted
be
with our
interpreted.
zoning code.
Okay. So would anything stop someone from coming in, let's say they had 5 acres and they just cut that into individual, they just plotted that individually little lots and then put 3 townhomes on each one. Could they get around that in that way and put
I
100
would have to
townhomes or
because,
150
okay, so
townhomes?
right there on the screen at the bottom of that paragraph, dwelling, multifamily unit, townhomes are considered that building type. So I guess I would have to interpret it as, even if there's only 3 units in the structure, it would still be a multifamily unit.
See, which I'm confused about, because my concept is townhomes that are sold, not rented, and that they're fee simple ownership. So basically, you own the ground and you own your house. It just happens to have not some of the units will be end units, so they'll only have one wall in common, and then the ones in the middle would have, 2 walls in common. But I'm with you about not wanting to have any more apartments. You know where I live, so I mean, that horse has already left the barn, unfortunately, where I live. But I'm saying the idea of using an infill development and having townhomes that step down from single-family homes to townhomes and then commercial. I'm looking for some guidance and hopefully some support for that project like that.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, do we need to, if we want to talk about this more, would we be making serious enough changes to anything if we went from 3 to 4 and that would it would negate our first reading?
I think we need to interpret it the way staff interprets it at this point.
Okay.
I do
So
too.
as to not violate any ordinance
Okay.
doctrine.
Perfect.
And not create an opening for any potential exploitation of the ordinance.
Okay. So then, what is the clarification you need?
Well, I'm looking for an opportunity to have a project like this without it saying we can't do something for a year. And trying to understand the rationale behind, like you said, the difference between 3 and 4, and the fact that other authorities, government authorities, are not making the decision in that direction. The definition, let's call it, the definition of a multifamily.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think our purpose for it is
Massive
well
apartments and
stated, yeah.
that kind of thing.
So as of right now, multifamily would be, townhomes are considered multifamily.
So how
Is
do
that
how do we proceed in real life?
The moratorium is in place for 1 year, and the council will be working with the planning commission during that year timeframe to determine how we're going to move forward with multifamily. It's going to be sent to the planning commission for consideration.
So that would mean, Van, that you couldn't do anything for a year.
No, not right now how it is. I mean, as we go through the planning edits, that we're looking at the planning code, so, and those definitions will need to be changed at that point.
So there's no opportunity to discuss that definition before it goes into effect?
This is your opportunity, then they have an opportunity to choose to change it. This is your discussion, this is the point of the public input. They can take it under advisement, and if they direct staff to change the ordinance, then we will before second reading.
Yeah. My worry is, once we start changing it, where do we stop? I mean, if we start making an example, this multifamily is okay, that multifamily is okay,
Well, I thought,
this multifamily is
I
okay.
I supported the idea of moratorium on large, multifamily apartment complexes. I mean, I never anticipated that was going to be applied, across the board to anything that's not a single-family house, basically. I think that's 2 different things. And if this is our only opportunity to discuss it, then I would like to discuss it further.
Okay. Well, I guess
Especially since there's really nothing like that in Port Royal. I mean, we're talking about housing opportunities. I mean, there's really nothing like the project that I'm talking about. Nothing like it, especially that would be new and up to current codes and that kind of thing.
And I guess I just don't know what project you're talking about, and what it looks like, or what's trying to be done, or.
Well, we're talking about a possible townhouse community that would be in a buffer zone between the single-family community of Wrights Point and the commercial parcel that fronts onto Paris Island Gateway. And to the right of it would be this giant Integra apartment complex that we're living with.
Yeah.
And so this would be the original concept for Wrights Point, I don't know if any of you have seen it, I have it. But it was really to look like this, frankly. It was supposed to have the single-family homes and then more of a townhouse type, development, and a lovely, commercial town center, kind of like Habersham-esque type thing. And then 2008 to 9 happened, and the financial world came to a screeching halt, and none of that came to fruition. But that was the original concept. You should remember what that looked like.
I know exactly what
yeah,
it
you were
looks like.
around with me looking at it. That's how we ended up buying the property in the first place. So this would be, something reminiscent of that.
But I
And
think when we talked about that, it was stores on the bottom and apartments on the top.
not necessarily. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, I don't want to argue with it, but I mean, I have the concept plans.
Yeah.
I have them. I can send them to you. But the point is, what we're thinking of, Van, right now is something like four units in a building. So I guess if we're 4 units in a building, we have we have a problem with this. If it's 3 units in a building, Noah, then it's not a problem. Is that correct?
No. Townhomes are considered a multifamily unit regardless of if there's 3 or 4 or 8 in the building itself. So I would have to interpret it that townhomes are multifamily for the time being.
I mean, isn't there some way of defining, this moratorium, in other words, so that this project could proceed in some kind of a fashion?
Yeah, and
I think the whole purpose of the moratorium was to slow things down and gather our thoughts and kind of pump the brakes.
Yeah.
I still think we should slow things down, pump the brakes, and gather our thoughts. I support what staff has brought before us, and I'll stand by that.
Okay.
Well, the problem that we have is that in the real world, things don't just slow down, and the cost of construction, for example, and the cost of land acquisition and the cost of labor is going nowhere but up. So a year could make a huge difference in those costs. I mean, you're in business, you understand that. So that becomes a real issue.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to work with you, believe me.
And this, like you said, the original plan said mixed use in it, right? And this wouldn't affect mixed use at all, I don't believe. No.
Let's look at it
No,
and see
we
what
need to direct staff before
Yeah,
next
let
meeting.
them meet with her and let's see what we got.
I'm just, like I said, I just don't
couldn't
want
hear you,
to
I'm
kind of, like, how many units are you, I mean, what's this project?
Probably 20 to 25.
Okay.
So everybody that comes before us that wants us to change it, we're gonna look at every single one?
And just
No,
say
that's
no.
not what I'm suggesting
No,
at all.
that's what I'm saying, the reality,
I'm
the
not
reality of it.
but the
is
reality
everybody-
was-
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks. The reality of this whole concept of a moratorium, which I supported. I voted for Kevin, for one of the reasons I voted for him for mayor was that. But my thought, when you talked about it, was no more Integra at Wrights Point, no more, giant complex like we're seeing going up by, Walmart and so forth. I never expected it was going to apply to a few townhomes that would basically be an infill, in a place where you already have the giant apartment thing. I mean, it's already there. It's already in our face.
This is
So I'll say, like I started to say, if we gotta change it for one, we gotta change for all. It's a year. That's where I'm at on
And I
it.
think Noah's interpretation is multifamily. To me, a multifamily is a multifamily regardless of 3, 4, or 2. It's still multifamily, and we're looking at something that's just temporary until we've had an opportunity to reevaluate this. So I think within the confines of that moratorium, I think it should just remain to cover all multifamily.
Well, in the meantime, I will suggest to you, since I know the developer very well, if something like this doesn't get an opportunity to move forward, then you're looking at within the current zoning where Noah and the staff don't have to be involved at all, where he could and will sell this to a boat storage or something like that, and that's clearly not what any of us would like to have as you come into Rice Point.
If it's zoned for that, I doubt
Well,
that area is zoned for boat
it's
storage.
zoned for plenty of things, believe me, that would not be an asset or an enhancement to that neighborhood.
Has the developer come and met with staff or talked to them about plans or anything?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I mean, we're trying to get a deal together, and quite frankly, if this happens, there's no deal. I mean, so there's no point in the developer coming. I mean, we're trying to get all the moving parts to go in the same direction.
It takes about a year to.
I've been working on this for months.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any comments from anyone else?
No, again, I gotta stand with the council on this. We went into this knowing that this is the direction we wanted to go in, to kind of pump the brakes about where we're going. And my biggest concern continues to be on how we're gonna continue to fund Captain Massey's operations at the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then adding 25 units is bringing 2.8 people per unit. That's still another 80 people that we're talking about we have to service when we're already 4 men short, an investigator down. I mean, things are coming and going with our emergency services. That becomes critical for us. That's number one for us as a council is safety. And so, again, Jerry said it. I think that's kind of what it is. If we look at Rebecca's project, we also have to look at George's project. And that's where we get put, and then that moratorium becomes irrelevant. It becomes nothing. It becomes,
You weren't on
Yeah.
council at the time, but I sure wish somebody had pumped the brakes before you put hundreds of apartments right in front of a luxury waterfront
I
community.
appreciate that,
PUD was
Rebecca,
written
that's
in the
really why
90s.
I'm here.
Sorry?
That PUD for Wrights Point was written in the 90s, correct?
Not PUD, but
That's
there
before
was
me.
it,
Yeah,
there was.
yeah.
That's before me.
So it's before all of us.
Before me, long before me.
What we inherited and what we just had to deal with.
So, as we kind of heard from everyone, we'll talk about it and see if there's any kind of changes, but I mean, it sounds like what change would need would be the definition of multifamily. And from
And
that,
then what I put up on
again,
the screen is just where we are with the definition of townhouse in our own code. I think that's what Rebecca's referring to.
That's similar to what I mean, that would be a good definition of what we're trying to put together on all sides. And I'm telling you, the alternative is ugly, and I don't just mean aesthetically
And
ugly.
what we're looking at really what the rooftop number is here, and I appreciate you using HUD and stuff, but HUD doesn't deal with our problems here. You know, and I really appreciate that, and the definition thing, we're gonna have to put a number on it, is what it seems like. But again, somebody who wants a project for 12 is gonna come and do the same thing, and they're gonna ask for the same thing, so.
Well, courts deal with different issues all the time. I mean, that you can't just say if you do it for one, you do it. That's not compelling because otherwise we wouldn't have anybody going to court about anything.
Yeah, I get it, but courts make very permanent decisions. We're having a temporary moratorium. It's in stone. It's a 1-year moratorium for us to gain traction and what we see, what we were inherited. You know, when you just said, like, I wish you were here and somebody would pump the brakes. I'm here right now, and I'm hoping to pump the brakes. I'm not being allowed to do that for an individual case. And that's kind of how it seems. You know, I'm not trying to be argumentative with it. I'm just interpreting it the way it's being presented to the council right now.
I just thought that the moratorium was aimed at large-scale, primarily rental apartment-type communities, and that's not what we're discussing. So that's why I'm saying, if it's a definitional issue, can't we work together, in other words, to make the definition make sense? I mean, believe me, I'm not against you, I'm not against the moratorium, and I'm not saying it's for everybody but us. I mean, what I'm saying is that conceptually, strategically, the moratorium was supposed to be no more integris, no more, what have you, put a name to it, in Port Royal, which, I mean, I don't want that either. I love it here. This is my home. But where you're talking about an infill project, where the current zoning would allow all kind, tattoo parlors, another oil change place, another car wash, whatever, I mean, this to me, this was something that I thought was going to seem very would react very positively from the town and the people that work for the town, saying, wow, thankfully this is a whole lot better than what these people could do and will do. I mean, I know this developer, so.
And I'm just pointing out the section that Noah's referring to, because you can see where it says here, dwelling multifamily unit, a structure containing 3 or more dwelling units on a single lot. So that's also within our code, so I think that's where your hands are tied in terms of how we define it in the moratorium, because multifamily is 3 or more attached.
And
I
the
misspoke on the number.
Yeah.
But the
realized that,
duplex,
actually.
but duplex is not, right?
Duplex is not.
That's not multifamily.
Yeah.
But so my question is, and those of you who have legal background, would relate to this, it may be that the moratorium is not defined in the way that we expected it to be. It may be that the target of multifamily dwellings is not really the real target. I mean, I don't think the target was ever 25 townhomes. I think the target. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I thought the moratorium was, as I said, large scale, in your face, massive structures. Mostly for rent. These are not for rent. These would be, fee simple, single-family homes that happen to have a common wall.
And zoning codes don't speak to rental versus ownership.
Yeah.
They speak to use.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of that.
So, well, I don't know if we're gonna get that figured out here right now. So we'll talk about it more. I mean, you've heard from council, they kind of agree with where staff's at and what it is.
We can pose the question to Lawrence
And see,
discuss the
yeah.
implications if you alter between first and second reading.
I'd wish this developer was kind of here to show us a, like, plan and not, you
Well,
know?
it's premature right now, Kevin, to show a plan. Premature. I mean, for one thing, there's no contract, okay, so I'm still working on that.
It would probably
So
take
it
a
might
year.
not even
Yeah,
happen.
well, it might.
It might fall
I
out.
knew you were gonna say that.
Never happened.
But
So that's too many- I don't like
the
it.
reluctance to even
Right, right.
pursue a contract.
Smell test to me.
What's
Because
that?
it might not even happen. So we're speculating on something. What if this, man?
Well, no.
And that goes against the spirit of the moratorium. That's just my opinion.
I hear you.
But the idea, in terms of a concept drawing and so forth, you can't do it yet because, you'll understand when I say, we're concerned about trees. Okay, and so you need to be able to evaluate the lot and the tree locations and tree mitigation and so forth. I mean, very, very sensitive to that. I mean, it's not part officially of Wright's Point, but naturally, we want it to look like that. So, you can't say, okay, there'll be 4 here. Oh, wait, there's a big, heritage tree here, so we can't go around it, that kind of thing.
No,
But the idea is, as I said, 20, 25 probably, whatever could fit in around the necessity for drainage and preserving as many of the legacy trees as possible.
Okay. So, and yeah, like you said, we'll speak with the attorney and see how that, if we're interpreting it right. It's just kind of tough for us to make an exception and change something on what maybe could be, happen potentially, So, like I said, I can tell you, we will talk about it more, but I don't think anyone's ready to make a change right now.
I'm happy to meet with you again, or meet with your attorney, I mean, whatever, to, get some more
Let's go.
Okay.
details around it.
We've exceeded our time, so we need
Absolutely.
to kind of
Yeah,
move
we can
on.
get
We got
together.
Wendy.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Wendy Zara.
Hi, good evening. Wendy Zara, I live on 14th Street, and I know you're not surprised to see me talking on this topic. We would like to request that you exclude affordable housing in the moratorium. Claude Hicks is here, and he's got a presentation he's going to do after the public hearings. But I also wanted to address a couple of things that came up last week. One thing that I heard you say was that Port Royal already has done its share of building affordable housing, and it has all these units, et cetera. So we researched it. And since 2016, you have had built here affordable housing, 208 units, and I believe 2 Habitat houses. That's in almost 10 years. There are a couple of older projects. One is Laurel Hill, which is elderly, and that's got to be 20 years old because I went to the groundbreaking for that. I was younger then.
Still are.
So this is really an economic development issue. The second thing that I wanted to address is I understand that the fire department and the police force is going to need more people when you have more units. But one reason why they can't hire people is because there is no housing for those people here. So this is kind of connect the dots. We have to start solving some of these problems because they're getting exponentially worse. Claude has a couple of slides in his PowerPoint that give you an idea of salaries and rents and stuff, because I know when we just say, 120% of AMI, that doesn't mean anything to you. But just, he'll give you some numbers so you can start to see. But just for example, starting patrol deputy sheriff starts at $50,000 a year. That's at about 60% AMI for one unit. So, and it goes down from there when you have hospital workers, some of the fire department, you get to a cafeteria worker. Then beyond that, you still have teachers. So we really need to start providing housing, making it available so that we can staff these really necessary services. So we're going to ask that you make an exception for affordable housing units up to 120% of AMI, and we'd be really happy to sit down and work with you to get that in the draft.
What is that income?
He's got, well, let's see, 120% of it. 120% of AMI is, I don't have the chart.
I know we got a presentation coming up.
Yeah, he has it, 120% of AMI for for two families. I mean, for one family that comprised of two people, is $88,150. That would be the income required. Probably they would both have to be working, and they could afford a rent of $2,600.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, because $1,200 a month is based on 45,000.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to ask y'all to bear with me. I'm just going to read a letter into the record, so it'll be kind of boring, but my name, y'all need my name?
Yes, please.
I'm Nicole Scott. I'm with Maynard Nexon down in Charleston, and I am representing Safe Harbor Marinas, and I'm going to read to you a letter from my co-counsel, Cheryl Shown.
Pull the mic up just a little bit. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
I've never heard anybody say they've had a hard time hearing
Use
me.
your outside voice. Use your outside voice.
So this was addressed to Mr. Willis and sent via registered mail this morning, and he should have received a copy by email, and I will provide a copy to the clerk for the records. Dear Mr. Willis, this letter is in response to your notice of April 22nd, 2024, a copy of which is enclosed, that the town of Port Royal, hereinafter the town, by and through its governing body, the town council, gave first reading to an ordinance, the moratorium ordinance, on April 10th, 2024. We'll reference that as the notice. This moratorium ordinance seeks to impose a townwide moratorium on approvable of multifamily developments within the town for a period of 1 year, effective upon enactment. This correspondence is a formal challenge to the efforts of the town on behalf of SHM Port Royal, LLC, to unilaterally and wrongfully modify the terms of the development agreement by and between the town and the South Carolina State Ports Authority dated February 14th, 2013, as amended and assigned to SHM, the current holder of the development rights thereunder. Please ensure this challenge is included in the record of the upcoming public hearing and provided to Town Council for consideration. The town is clearly aware of its obligations pursuant to the DA, as evidenced in part by references to sections 5 and 8 in your recent correspondence. Thus, you're aware that any modification to zoning that conflicts with SHM's vested rights pursuant to the DA must be in accordance with the procedures and provisions of South Carolina Code 63180, paragraph B. To that point, the town clearly cannot support its position pursuant to 631.8B1, 3, or 5. Thus, it appears the town is proceeding or intends to proceed pursuant to paragraphs 2 and 4, which are addressed below. Paragraph 2 provides, in pertinent part, that in order to apply the moratorium to the property subject to the DA, the town must show that such moratorium is essential to the public health, safety, or welfare. While the notice makes vague reference to health, safety, and welfare concerns, it fails to specifically identify what those concerns are or their basis. In addition, even if there are general concerns with multifamily uses within the town, the notice fails to identify how SHM's vested development right under the DA contributes to or exacerbates these concerns. A genuine and supportable demonstration of such is remarkably dubious in that, among other things, the DA was amended less than 3 years ago to increase the residential density from a maximum of 425 residential density units, plus any allowable conversion under the controlling PUD to a maximum of 575 residential units. The residential units referenced may include, pursuant to the DA and PUD, certain multifamily units. I'm going to, if I may, since y'all went over on the first one, if I could just finish the letter, I'd appreciate that. For the town to proceed pursuant to paragraph 4 is likewise suspect. That section provides in part that in order to apply modified zoning to the property subject to the DA, the town must demonstrate that substantial changes have occurred in pertinent conditions existing at the time of approval, which, if not addressed by the town, would pose a serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. Again, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to reconcile reconcile the terms of the DA as amended, including the 2021 amendment, with any purported demonstration of a substantial change in pertinent conditions existing in 2021, such that public health, safety, or welfare is threatened by the potential for increased housing. As to efforts of the town to proceed under either one of these paragraphs, the above information be considered along with the information that suggests the town is growing at almost 4% annually, and the population of the town has increased by roughly 15.5% since 2020. Additionally, SHM brings to the attention of the town its own 2014 comprehensive plan. Successful retail and businesses, life on the streets, a sense of community, these things rely on a common element, people, and more specifically, a consistent base of people who can conveniently and safely walk to their destination. The comprehensive plan also states that Port Royal will be attractive for a diverse population of retirees, young families, and professionals in order to have a stable population mix and increase prosperity. While references to the comp plan and its focus on population and growth can and will continue pursuant to this challenge, we will add that the comprehensive plan anticipates the population of Port Royal at an in excess of 215,000 people in 2030, which will generate a demand for housing. I may add probably affordable housing in that regard as well. As a notice, similarly to any health, safety, and welfare concerns, fails to identify with specificity the changed conditions that would justify the application of the moratorium ordinance to development of property governed by the DA, one can only surmise it is a response to the town's grievances with SHM related to the donation of an easement for the Spanish Moss Trail and other demands for property not required under the DA, and is part of its ongoing interference with development of the property, including but not limited to stop work orders, denial of business licenses, and criminal citations to employees of both SHM and its tenants. Consequently, SHM respectfully submits that the town's position that multifamily housing is detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare seems disingenuous, as does any claim to a change in conditions. This is particularly so in light of correspondence dated December 14th, 2023, a copy of which is enclosed, to SHM from the mayor, Kevin Phillips of Port Royal, which inquires of SHM if the town can assist in providing residential development options that do not include build-to-rent units. Thus, less than 5 months ago, the town did not have any public health, safety, and welfare concerns, nor did it identify any change in circumstances that would require subsequent regulations to be applied to SHM's development. In fact, the town was offering to assist SHM with residential development options, but perhaps not those that might be affordable and therefore attractive for a diverse population of retirees, young families, and professionals in order to have a stable population mix and increased prosperity. When considering the town's unequivocal opposition to development of residential portions of the property subject to the DA as build to rent, along with the town's inquiry to SHM as to why a certain entity may still be involved with residential development, if SHM is open to conversation with other developers and the town's offer to provide assistance in alternative residential development options, there arises certain questions of whether the town's action in this moratorium may be for ulterior purposes and or focuses on SHM's property in an arbitrary and capricious manner. SHM expressly reserves its right to supplement the basis of this formal challenge to the proposed moratorium. Very truly yours, Cheryl D. Chown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment on 2024-9? Come on down.
Mayor, Council, Josh Scoletti. I own property both in the city of Beaufort and Port Royal. My Port Royal property is 1608A Paris Avenue, a duplex that I purchased a little over 10 years ago. Just listening to the conversation tonight and then reading through the ordinance, I'd like to propose what could be an alternative that may work. for all parties, just being sympathetic to those who maybe have been planning for development in some way, trying to bring multifamily housing to the area, and for affordable housing. That alternative would be to put a moratorium on development that would trigger a traffic impact analysis. So by definition, that would be any development that would bring more than 50 trips per peak hour. And then that would, by nature, be a moratorium on your larger apartment complexes and some of your larger developments, which I think is the intent here anyway. So perhaps there's a better way to define what you're trying to pump the brakes on. I think that's your larger development, and I think that could be a very easy way to do so. And then coupled with that, striking the portion in the existing code, I think it's 2.5.80, which provides an exemption to development in the downtown district. So that's defined as the south of Rebo, and then east of Richmond, all the way to Battery Creek, and then south down to the bottom of the peninsula. So in the code, the way that it's written, I believe there's an exemption that does not require developments, regardless of size, to have a traffic impact analysis. And ultimately, that's going to be where you determine whether or not the infrastructure could sustain the development or not. So just throwing it out there. And then I'll just add in that I really do appreciate the service and the leadership that you guys provide to the community. So thank you for that. And thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thanks, sir.
All right, so that. All right, so that will close our public hearing. Moving on now to council workshop. Call to order. First thing on the agenda. First, I'll just ask you for a minute. Everybody good? Going through? All right.
Super.
Okay. Up first, we have a presentation, introduction of new personnel. Come on down.
We have Miss Amber Hewitt. She started with us on March 25th, and has really dove into business license. We just had our renewals, timeframe was yesterday, and so she has been very busy. Staff's been supporting and giving her a lot of help during this time. She's also in the midst of, we just did an upgrade to our software, so she's working through a couple little hiccups with little stumbling blocks of the information coming over, but has been handling it perfectly and is doing a great job.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Take a moment to kind of gather your thoughts. Brag on yourself a little bit. Introduce us to Amber.
I do a lot.
I know you do. I see you all over town.
I do photography, and I do a lot of photography for nonprofits, so I don't charge them for it. I do a lot with the nonprofits and volunteering and work at the Water Festival and different festivals and things like that. And I'm a social worker, but I do other stuff too, so that's pretty much it. Okay. 5 kids, 3 grandkids, and 2 dogs.
Nice. Where are you from, this area?
Originally, I was born in Ohio, moved to Florida, and came here from Florida.
Did the military bring you here?
No.
No, okay.
Cool. It's ironic that she was introduced today. I received a telephone call today from a resident that spoke highly of you and your professionalism and how you resolved the matter, and said this is a new employee that you all have down there in Port Royal, Amber, and she was spectacular. So I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Amber.
Okay, up next we have another presentation, Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust, Mr. Claude Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's nights like tonight where I have a great appreciation for your patience, especially when they don't pay you a whole bunch of money. I am here tonight representing the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust. That is a trust that is made up of a consortium of 6 communities, plus Beaufort and Jasper County. One of those 6 communities is Port Royal. Go to the next one, please. Our mission is simple. The mission of the trust is to create and preserve affordable housing in Beaufort and Jasper counties. It's as simple as you can get, but it is a huge undertaking and one in which everyone has their opinion of whether or not it should be here and what it should be. Our program goals, next slide please, are the creation or preservation of affordable and workforce rental housing, home repair assistance, and home buyers assistance. Those are our 3 main focus. We have made already some investment in the creation of affordable housing. We are, for the first time in this area, going to get a license from the state of South Carolina to be a qualified home repair assistant company, or organization rather. That requires a huge application, but it would also allow us to tap into the $20 million fund set up by the state of South Carolina to apply towards home repair. Next slide, please. I get this all the time. I've been doing this a long time. What's the difference between affordable housing and workforce housing? Affordable housing is defined as spending no more than 30% of your income on your home, your mortgage, your rent, whatever it is defined by the place that you live in. Workforce housing is the same. The goal is to not spend more than 30% of your income, but the definition of affordable housing goes up with respect to how much you can earn. So affordable housing applies to those individuals earning 60% of area median income or less. Workforce housing can go all the way up to 120% of area median income. So if you take a look at the next slide, you'll see the disparity and the real gap between those people in a 3-person household. Their 60% income limits, which means it's the maximum they can earn to qualify for affordable housing, is $54,000. 120% income limit for a 4-person household is $113,000. In this area, there has been a lot of discussion about workforce housing because it can help those individuals who earn too much to qualify for affordable, but still don't make enough money to be able to afford the fair market rents in this area. Next slide, please. What are the wages for Port Royal workers? This is according to the internet. Sheriff's Patrol deputy is $50,000. First-year firefighter, $42,000. A hospital worker, the average hospital worker at Beaufort Memorial taking out medical professionals is $46,000. Average construction worker in this area is $37,000. Social workers are $38,000. Cafeteria workers are $24,000. So for, could you go back one, please? So for the Sheriff's Patrol deputy and the first-year firefighter, they are likely to qualify for workforce housing. Everybody else that you see on that slide would likely qualify for affordable housing. Thank you. An average tax credit development timeline. We are not like traditional market rate developers in that if they have the money and they can go to the bank and get the loan and they can get the land, they can start construction, they can move forward quickly. We have to go through a process. Primarily it's so that we can get tax credits that drive the equity that allow us to build the housing. So our site identification and buildability testing takes about 12 months. Our pre-development for project feasibility takes 6 months. Our applications take 4 months. Our submission to the agency takes another 6 months. Closing for construction, 6 months. Construction, 16 months. Permanent loan closing and lease up, 6 months. Stabilization, 4 months. So you see that from the time we look and say this may be a suitable site, or this may be, in some cases, an old, tired apartment complex that can be refreshed using 4% tax credit bonds, it takes about 5 years from start to finish. Next, please. what is the current state of workforce and affordable housing, not only in this area, but across the United States. Single-family home pricing has eliminated most people in the lower income to moderate income band in the United States that just can't afford to purchase a home. That has increased demand on apartments, and rental prices have reached record highs. If you look in this area, in Beaufort County, the average rental cost is $24.75 per month. The pandemic, interest rates, lack of supplies, and construction costs have slowed production in multifamily. You all probably think it hasn't because of all of the development that's going on here, but if you look across the country, it has slowed demonstrably. There is talk about increasing tax credits per state, but there's been talk for 10 years about that. That's not likely to be here anytime soon. And right now, the need for affordable and workforce housing in the United States is more than 7.3 million units. At this point, both Beaufort and Jasper counties can't wait to take action. This is a housing and an economic development opportunity. The average 60-unit affordable housing or workforce housing development brings about $25 million into a community between construction costs, acquisition of land, fees, etc. These are owned by private entities which pay property taxes on an annual basis. It brings that discretionary income for those residents into the community as well. We know that you recognize that Beaufort County and Port Royal have significant needs for affordable and workforce housing. We are asking your consideration that all affordable and workforce multifamily development under the jurisdiction of Port Royal be exempt from the moratorium up to 120% of area median income. So if you take a look at what that means up to someone earning $112,000, I believe, for a 3-bedroom unit. We ask for your consideration in that. As a member of the consortium, we would hope that you would give it some strong consideration. We're happy to provide any additional materials or details that you might need as you consider. But affordable housing, as I have walked around these 2 counties over the last month, and my family's from Charleston, so I'm familiar with this area. I grew up and went to high school in Columbia. My dad was stationed at Shaw Air Force Base. I understand what is needed right now are places for service workers to live. Everywhere I go, I sat on an hour-long call with folks over at Hilton Head bemoaning the fact that they couldn't get service workers to come over there because there isn't anywhere for them to live. That is endemic across both counties. And we would ask for your consideration, we would ask for your understanding, and we're prepared to respond in whatever way you would like so that you would take this and put it into the moratorium as an exemption.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we've got some interviews for the Redevelopment Commission. I believe we have one position open on that board, Rick? Okay. We've got 3 interviews tonight, and we also then have someone that submitted an interview, letter, correct? Okay. Up first is Mr. William Entwistle. Did I say that right?
Hello.
How are you? Hello. Go ahead and you start saying your name.
I think a
address.
lot of you probably know my mother. She's lived here since 2006, so I've been visiting since a couple times a year since 2006, and I moved here now end of January, and I'm not retired. I call it I'm in transition, figuring out the next phase of my life. But I wanted to get more involved, and you know, I've been following what's been going on, you know, even before I moved here. So it seems like it's kind of at a pivotal point right now.
Yes, sir. Any questions for Mr.
Tell us a little bit about your background, tell us where you're from, take a moment, gather your thoughts.
I grew up in New Mexico, and then I moved to New York, and I lived there for 25 years, and then I moved here. I studied economics in college. That was my degree. And then while in New York, I also got an associate's in interior design. And the last 20 years, I was working in HR for an international architecture and design firm that's done projects all around the world.
Gotcha.
So
You mentioned your mother. Now, who is your mother?
Liz Entwistle.
Okay.
So she's everywhere all the time.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Umbrella always won't take it.
She does.
So because of her and her involvement, I kept up with what goes on in the city and the town.
And you live here in the town?
Mhm, yeah, yeah.
You just recently moved here.
Yeah, end of January.
Just moved.
Yeah, but I've been coming twice a year, you know, to check on her and go to the water festival and
That's
everything.
Yes, sir. All right, well, thank you so much.
Okay,
Any questions
thank
from
you.
anybody? Okay. All right, yes, thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you for your
Thank
willingness
you.
to serve, absolutely. Up next, Mr. Michael Dubois. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Yes, sir.
And Van, how are y'all?
Good.
Good. I've got a history of being with the City of Beaufort, County. My history is in building codes, zoning, business license. I might not remember all of them, but I wore many hats for the City of Beaufort. I helped with developing our zoning ordinance for the City of Beaufort. I helped develop our corridor review ordinance, and I've worked for the city for 20 years, or for the county about 3 years, and been in the area all my life, third generation. I just built my second home in Port Royal, sold my other one, so I'm in the heart of town. Thought I could help the community. Been doing zoning for several years. So I've BOAR, the zoning board, development review board. I was the city's coordinator for the city of Beaufort. Be glad to help the town in any way I can. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer any.
You answered what I was going to ask.
Yeah, that was pretty
good. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Got a round of applause. You got to follow that. Now we got Jeremy Taylor.
Jeremy's like, I think I'm sitting down.
Mike's a hard act to follow. I kind of like him. Jeremy Taylor. I'm good with questions, to be honest with you. But
tell us a little bit about yourself and why do you want to be on the board?
I'm not really sure what the right answer is, but history is an indication. Like, I've been in Port Royal for 20 plus years. Yeah, my company's right up the street. I'm here every single day, Coastal Real Estate Solutions. And I've just been an ambassador for this community for as long as I can remember. You know, I haven't really stepped up and, you know, I kind of stay in my lane for the most part up until I've acquired multiple different properties in Port Royal over the years. And, you know, obviously I have a vested interest in this community. Never gravitated to downtown Beaufort. Love it. But, I talk this place up like it's the best thing since sliced bread. Other
Me
than
too.
yeah. Yeah, no, trust me. Yeah, when they come in and say that they're looking in downtown Beaufort, I'm like, come get them to talk to me, and we'll shift their focus. So, other than that, if anybody has any questions,
So
for me.
what is your reason for serving? Tell me that again. I'm not sure if I
I
you
don't
got
know.
property here. You want to get involved?
I love my community, and I've been practicing real estate in Port Royal for 20 plus years. So I do have a vested interest. I do think that, Port Royal is kind of, in my humble opinion, kind of the last kind of, southern charm gem that we have, like on the East Coast.
I agree.
I mean, really, like I grew up in North Carolina, so I know the coastline from Wilmington down to Savannah like the back of my hand. And yeah, I mean, I truly believe that, like we are the most little, tiny, charming little place that there is out there.
Cool.
So.
Thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome. Any questions?
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
All right. We also did get a letter that was emailed to us from Mrs. Candace Ellis, which we will all read and consider as well too for a position on the redevelopment commission. Thank you all for your willingness to serve and come here and take time out of your day and speak with us. It means a lot. And you guys that are on all of our boards and commission, I mean, it's the work you do really helps move the town. So thank you so much. So we've got that, and then at our next meeting is when we will announce appointments. All right, up next, council briefing. Mr. Willis.
All right, let's start out with the Town of Port Royal projects. The one that never seems to go away is the Royal Palms Gravity Sewer Project. We did finally receive the final pay application. It has been approved, and we're close to actually being done. We're dealing with the patch associated with that project, and I think we're there. I think I have to check. The poster's still up? All right, we'll get that dealt with. That's next on our list. Next item is speed humps. We have been wrestling with the South Carolina Department of Transportation on getting us there. They require 85th percentile on average speed and counts. We have been accumulating data. We're having issues getting to those thresholds in certain areas. We are relocating the counters for the speed to different spots along Lenore and West Vine and in Casablanca. I'm still befuddled how those locations don't qualify, but every single neighborhood in Charleston has. It's amazing to me, just truly amazing. But we'll continue to do that. We are reviewing that speed table map as indicated, and we're putting together the time frame and costs as well. So, West Paris Avenue, that obviously is one of the infrastructure grants. Finalized bid documents, we did advertise on April 8th. We had a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting. We did have 2 contractors attend. Hopefully we'll get more than 2 submitted, but they are due on May 7th. A drainage analysis for the villages area, also one of the grants that we received. We are reviewing and getting town feedback. We are planning on the alleyways to be paved to address some of the stormwater issues, and that'll address some of the ongoing maintenance issues that we had in there as well. Blythe was asked to give us an estimate on paving those alleyways. So we'll be able to build infrastructure into the alleyways as well to address some of those problems. Paris Avenue streetscape, we're going to make that presentation, or Michael and Josh Tiller will make it in May 8th, I believe. Is that what you have in the briefing?
June.
Well, it's written as May 8th here, but we'll correct that. All right, good. Okay, good. All right, Stott Street school parking, and we've got everything approved as far as getting that sidewalk installed, so we're ready to move forward with that. We have executed the easement per the recommendation and the final document from the school district. Conceptual layout is also done for the other side of 12th Street, as we keep talking about every single month. We're coordinating with the contractor and the school district to get that work scheduled, so we do have plans for that. Obviously, we prefer to do that work while school is out. So, we reviewed the proposals for the stormwater CIP master plan. Obviously, 4 waters will be doing that. We'll have the council approval, obviously, next week on that contract. Paris Avenue Streetgate grant, environmental clearances are still required. We're still working on that. And Michael is coordinating meeting with LOCOG. Roadway paving, y'all probably saw the vehicles out there doing the additional work in some of the areas that they either missed or we've added.
Go ahead, I want to comment on that.
Go ahead and comment.
I've kind of noticed around town in some areas, some of the, I call them stop bars, maybe need a little touch up.
No, that's temporary paint. And per the contract, they're going back with the thermal. But we obviously want to put something in place. You got to wait for the asphalt.
I didn't know. Thank you for that clarification.
What was the little additional piece over here in the sands?
What's that?
The redone portion of the sands, whatever.
Water was already starting to cool in that area.
Oh, and that
We're
was a
getting
common
feedback
before.
about that,
Yeah.
so while we still have them here, we asked them to repair that.
Build it up, okay.
I think it looks great. Doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Right. And then we got I think there was a question about, why wasn't 15th Street done or this, that, and the other. Well, some of those streets were done 3 or 4 years ago, so we weren't going to resurface a road that was just done 3 or 4 years ago. But
It looks great.
I think it looks super. I mean, I ride around town and just see it. There are walks all over town. He sees it firsthand. I think it looks great.
Casablanca Drainage, y'all approved the proposal. We're putting together that drainage analysis now. As far as the Spanish Moss Trail goes, that's on hold until we can secure the easement, working with our wonderful partners from Safe Harbor. Dawson Place, that's completely wrapped up, so we're good there. Short-term rentals, obviously that is a topic of discussion. We have the moratorium in place, but I just a quick summarization. Obviously, we'll be standing up a task force to give everybody an opportunity. We've received a significant number of applications to participate. Y'all probably going to have to hold a special meeting to interview those people that are interested in serving in the task force. We did hear from the former task members, and most of them are not interested in participating again. We're fine with that as well, so that's good. I do have Safe Harbor listed here. You did hear from their attorney. I'll let that letter speak for itself. Shrimp Dock, based upon the feedback we got from y'all relative to the platforms and the two concepts that we did review, they're working on a final conceptual design for y'all to really take a look at. Obviously, because we're contemplating being outside of those property lines, we'll need to work with the adjacent property owners because the way the docks work, if you're outside the corridors that extend out to the waterway, you need to get permission from the adjacent owners. I can't imagine it's going to be a problem because obviously they prefer to see shrimp boats out there as well as additional day dockage. No, I was going to ask you to speak on the grant.
Yeah.
If you want to touch on that real quickly, if you don't
Sure.
mind. I know I hit you cold.
No, you're fine. So we, a couple months ago, council approved the town applying for a grant on behalf of several entities, Paris Island, Coastal Carolina, SCDNR. There are a few other smaller contributions there. They would, for a living shoreline off the coast of Paris Island, it's part of the military installation resilience recommendations that have been put in place recently. And so the GEA, Global Eco Adventures, is the one who actually figures out what, I don't even really, the eco reef and stuff like that. I'm not totally clear on all of it, the science of it. They reached out and would like to schedule an event in the town that is hosted by the town, but celebrates that Living Shoreline grant. That would be late July, early August. I think last week, first week is what the time frame they're looking at based on officers' availability at Paris Island. And so really it would be kind of a celebration that the town is taking those steps and that the local community and the military installations are taking those steps as well. And kind of put the word out that this project is something cool and something to be proud of. So we'll keep you posted on dates for that.
That's right. They wanted us to host it. They want to have it on Paris Island, right? I think like at the
My
site.
understanding was they want to have it on our side of the creek.
Okay, they want to have it over here? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mentioned taking some people out on a boat to check out the area, so I'm assuming that would be y'all.
The gentleman that came and spoke with us, Geo Adventures, and remember he was the guy that was like, I've never seen this many people in a room before. It's that grant, and they just want us, they want to do basically
It's a public relations.
a kickoff event
Yeah.
for it.
Yes.
And they want us just to host an event with, you said people from Paris Island and other municipalities and so.
And invite USCB and all, you know, there's a couple other organizations that have a hand in this as well that aren't
That sounds
necessarily
good. I think
monetarily.
if you get us some dates, we can all
Yeah.
make it work. Yep. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Norm.
Capital projects, that's updated in the folder. So Loco, we had a presentation by Russell Baxley, obviously CEO of Beaufort Memorial Hospital, kind of discussing current and future anticipated medical care related needs for Beaufort County. Pretty eye-opening in terms of the shortage of, not just nurses, but actual doctors and certain specialties, and what they're doing to recruit and address those needs. I was hoping that presentation would be posted to the SoLoco link on both Hardy and Bluffton's website. It wasn't yet, but I am going to circulate that. I think it's pretty eye-opening. I will applaud Beaufort Memorial for being real aggressive in terms of trying to address some of those shortages, including affordable housing. So it's, despite the fact that we've seen significant population increases, personnel related to assisting or taking care of that growing population is just not there yet. This is nothing unique to us, but probably something that's occurring in these areas, particularly in the South, where we're seeing population growth. significantly increase, so. All right. Transportation referendum, I think from what I heard last, the county council has sent that back to the committee that was putting together the referendum question as well as the projects. I think they want them to fine tune some of the project lists. Obviously, one of the concerns we had was how the funds would be designated for Northern Beaufort County. Obviously, there were funds set aside for other municipalities. So we'd like to see that potentially addressed by the committee if they're going to take a look at it again. So I think there was some concern over, or making sure that maybe some of the unpaved roads in Beaufort County were going to be specifically addressed in that referendum question. So.
Yeah, so I spoke with Joe Passama, chairman of county council, and he reiterated that their original plan was to have those public meetings, and then they were going to give the referendum a third reading in May. They've decided to, now that they've had those public meetings, take all of those comments, send them back to that task force that they stood up, have them make recommendations and changes to the referendum, and then they'll have third reading, they hope, in June. And then that'll give them July, August, September, October to educate the public for it to be on the ballot in November. So if we can find out, I guess will Dean be our guy still back
Yes.
on it? Okay, so Dean Moss is our guy on it. We can try to, I don't know, are those open to the public? I would imagine they are. All right, we'll try and find that out. Maybe we can get some people there.
Nothing new on the legal front. Obviously, several things on the legal front, but I think you've heard most of it this evening. Let's go down to tree review. I know that Noah's been working on some potential amendments that we'll discuss a little bit more depth as we move forward. Obviously, we received a significant amount of input from council and the public on some things that we could potentially change. Obviously, that is in y'all's realm, whether you want to amend that ordinance, but I think we're putting together that document.
Yeah, I have several recommendations. Some are, just technical things that aren't going to dramatically change the way that the ordinance is administered. I mean, we want to keep the spine, right, of what was passed last year and make sure that it's working correctly and that there aren't anything that's too significant of a burden. And so I'm kind of coming at it from those angles. Let's keep the spirit, keep the emphasis on preserving significant trees, keep the requirement to try every means to do so, and then tone back some things that haven't been working as a result of the adoption last year. I think what I'll do is if y'all are asking me to do so, it would be to put the amendments together fully for next month's workshop, and in the meantime, just circulate my notes on my review, so that you have an idea of where I'm going with it, and you can ask Van any questions that you might have. And, it's in your folder already. Okay, but it is my shorthand in some spots. So
okay,
yeah,
sounds good. You guys good?
Yep. And then the last thing I have is I think we're very, very close on the Naval Hospital sidewalk. And I would like to thank Laurel Roten, who has served on, I believe, our redevelopment commission before, who is now serving in that position for the Department of Navy, and she's been fantastic in pushing this forward, working with Megan Grove with the DOT. We have the exhibits, we have the deed. Just keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That's all I've got on briefing.
All right. Any questions for Van? Nope. Mayor Pro Tem? Council members?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Up next, review agenda for next week. I'll go through that. A lot of it was what we just talked about at the public hearing. Agenda for next week. Council briefing. Of course, first reading is 2024-10, an ordinance to amend as follows: Section 1 ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for ordinary town purposes. The town of Port Royal, South Carolina, for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2024, to provide for the expenditures thereof. That is just to do first reading on the budget, so then we can have it teed up for second reading in July for when we can pass it, have it in place. And as you said, by state statute, we are required to carry a balanced budget, so it will be balanced. Up next is 2024-11, That is to approve the court department budget. That is a part of the budget that we pull off and do separately. For second reading, I'm not gonna read them all, but it's everything we just did in the public hearing. It's 2023-5, that's about the Port Royal overlay. 2024-3, that's the annexation, 1.1 acres. 2024-4, that's the zoning of that 1.5 acres. 2024-5, that is the rezoning of 0.17 acres on 16th Street. 2024-6, that is about the manufactured home overlay. 2024-7, that's regarding mobile homes and mobile home parks, apartments, and dwellings in the code. 2024-8 is the moratorium on short-term rentals, and 2024-9 is the moratorium on multifamily units. So those are up for second reading next week. Council actions, we've got some appointments. Redevelopment Commission, we're appointing one person. You heard the interviews tonight. Short-term rental task force, 5 appointments, but it sounds like we may need to plan a special meeting for that,
Yeah.
considering the quantity of people that have applied for that. Next to council action is approval of the Four-Water stormwater mapping proposal. And then next is the accommodations tax recommendation. As you know, we just stood up a accommodations tax board because we finally passed $50,000 in accommodations tax, and so we were by state statute required to stand up an accommodations tax board. And so they have met, and they, I guess, have made some decisions. They're gonna present
But they have one recommendation.
They have one recommendation they'll make to us, and we will vote on that next week. We got some important dates, but we'll go over those next week, because they're all that. So that's the agenda for next week. This is all in line as well, too. Next important dates between now and next Wednesday, we've got the Design Review Board meeting tomorrow at 5:30. That will be in council chambers. Waterfest 5K, 8 a.m. on Saturday at Live Oaks Park. I love the Star Wars poster.
May the Fourth be with you. Right?
Good. I like that. May 4th, we also have our spring street music on Paris starts back. So I hope to see everybody out on that. We've got a great band. Soulful Femme will be there. That starts at 6 downtown. And then, of course, next week, we've got second budget workshop, public hearing for everything that's on the agenda. So everything we discussed tonight will be on there again. And then council meeting, of course, following Wednesday night at 6:30. I will say just other stuff looking at it. There is, the village people have their monthly trash pickup. First Saturday of every month, they meet in front of St. Mark's at 8:30. And then, of course, again, we just already talked about street music on Paris. So those are the dates that we've got from now until next Wednesday. Anybody like to add anything?
No, you covered it well, Mayor.
All right, you good? What you got?
This is comment time?
We're doing dates and then we'll get into it.
No, I don't have any dates other than Taste of Buford is coming up this weekend.
Taste of Buford starts, yep, that's right. Right now, we've got public comment. I'll open it up, anyone that has any public comments. So just start here in the front. Yes, Mr. Courtney? Oh, yes.
Your own baseball hat.
Oh, great.
Before the kill.
There we go.
Please tell me we don't have to wear these when we run.
Yes. No, you get the remote run.
We do.
Oh,
Okay.
I just want to say that I am totally against these short-term rentals and a lot of the long-term as well.
Okay.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am, thank you very much. And Mr. Clark?
I just wanted to point out something that happened today that's very disappointing and sad. I think it's sad that we have people in our community that would grab a turtle out of the cypress wetlands and then write spray paint 24 on their back with another little design.
Is that
And then
posted somewhere?
it's on our website
Oh,
and our Facebook page. But that's a sad state of affairs
Yeah.
right there.
yes.
Thanks for pointing that out.
People don't care about it.
All right, any more comments from the public? We'll move now to council. Any comments from council?
No, sir, I'm good, thank you.
All right, Councilman Owens?
No, I just wanted to.
How was your birthday?
I had a wonderful birthday.
Good,
Thank you all.
good.
I just love the input and the views of our residents, whether it's from an objective or a supportive stance. That's what makes Port Royal what it is. So I love that. I love the participation. I appreciate those people that have a willingness and desire to volunteer their time to serve on these committees. That's commendable, you know, so it speaks volumes. And so again, that's what makes Port Royal a great place to be. And last but not least, I want to just publicly thank the county council also for their approval on the 22nd of naming our new library in honor of former Mayor Sandberg.
They said that looks like it should be open in June?
Yeah, sometime in June.
If you go by, they got shelves up. There's no books on them, but there's
And
shelves
the
in
ground,
there.
the landscaping, everything.
Yeah, there's shelves in. We'll get the books in there. Any comments? I'll just say really quick, you know, hey, Dan, on a sad note, should have started on it, but we did have someone pass away, a good friend in the community. Bobby Cook, his wife Franny, they live right there on 12th Street. He's one of the first people I met when I moved here. He's always, I don't know if you ever met him, he was a fun guy. He was always happy, always had a joke, always got along with everybody. He was a great guy, and unfortunately passed away suddenly, Saturday night? Yeah, so there will be a memorial service at Anderson Funeral Homes on Monday from 5 to 7. And again, if you know Franny, like I said, she's on 12th Street, and so just keep them in your prayers, and if you see her out and about, you know, just tell them you're praying for him and thinking about him. And again, services for him will be Monday from 5 to 7 at Anderson on Robert Smalls Parkway. So just wanted to bring that up, absolutely. Anything else?
I appreciate that.
All right. We don't
Make
need
a
a
motion
motion?
to adjourn.
All right, I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you all.